There was so much that happened this past weekend for disc golf, but there's a couple things that I really want to talk about. Let's get into it. So first things first, I know it's not on anyone's actual radar, but if you were watching Amateur Worlds, it ended in crazy fashion. An 1002 rated player, Axel Olsen, threw it in for eagle to win the World Championship by 2 strokes against Carson Smith. Definitely not players that you've probably heard of, but I will bet they'll definitely be on tour shredding it very soon. So before we get to the preserve, just want to give a big shout out to obviously the GOAT, Paul Mcbeth, at the Swedish Open. And even though Nicholas was looking really strong coming into the final round, just played a little bit conservative, missed a couple of C1 putts, but the main issue was C2 misses and OB throws. Still an amazing performance for Nicholas, and one of the most Paul-like things to happen. He jams in a 60-footer to win the tournament, 2 strokes ahead of Nicholas, and I love to see that this back and forth between Nicholas and Paul, because a lot of people don't see it, but they definitely have very similar skill levels at the moment, so it is really neck and neck between who will win each event, and it definitely could be a big precursor for the European Open. Alright, so on to the preserve. There was a lot of talk about is this too easy of a course? Is it even worthwhile with the current layout because everyone can birdie basically every hole? And that is very interesting because that was kind of what happened. You had Ricky starting out with a 15 under, 1082 rated round, insane stuff. And even more crazy is he had 2 bogeys and not a single par in that first round. So if he could have just birdied one of those holes and parred another, he would have gotten a perfect round, which you do not expect to see on tour nowadays. So obviously Ricky wins this event, not even really close. There was a point where Cole was actually tied with Ricky, but that was because he was way far ahead and just totally shredding it with a 15 under to end his tournament. But it was really just the Ricky show through and through.
Yeah, it wasn't the first day. I was kind of up in the air about playing, and I took ibuprofen. I was like, I'm going to go play, and I played the best round of the weekend for me. And so that was cool. And then it progressively got a little better. And I think it's the type of thing where I was just, smooth with my form. I wasn't trying to do anything crazy. And I think that's what kept me in control out here and not playing outside of my means. I just threw a lot of shots that I felt comfortable with.
And I love to see this performance where he is back on top. Obviously, he's still having some major wrist issues, but clearly it is working for him. He is figuring out the right method, but I would definitely like to see him have a long, healthy career. So if he does have to take a couple more months off tour, I definitely want that to happen. Same for the other podium finishers. You had Cole and Calvin. And I definitely thought that Calvin might just have a stellar round to end the tournament and get a sneaky win, but that was not the case. With a 50% circle 1 and 0% circle 2, that is just not going to cut it when you have to get a 15 under to beat Ricky. But with that said, he is still playing phenomenal. Second place is not anything to scoff at. Still a great performance, and it shows that Calvin is here to stay week after week. But I would say the real star of MPO has to be Cole Radolin. With his first 2 rounds being pretty good, but just not really stellar, I definitely didn't perceive him as to be at all a top finisher. But Cole is one of those goats that just performs like none other when you least expect it. And with only 4 pars on the day and no bogeys, this is definitely one of the hottest rounds I think we've ever had in the entire year, besides James's 16 under at Jonesboro. And once again, he could have gotten even better with a couple more C1 putts and 0% circle 2, even though that was only a 1 circle 2 putt. Just goes to show that consistency on this course means a ton, and it is really all about getting your drive up to C1 because the challenges really are not that difficult for these pros. And then an honorable mention, definitely have to shout out Eagle McMahon with his 14 under to end the tournament. I was not even really perceiving him to be at all a threat on this tournament because this is his first tournament back in a while, but in a very similar fashion to Cole, he totally shreds the final round with his 14 under, 4 pars with 1 eagle. And while this may not be a complete event for him with only a 6 under in his first round, still a great comeback performance, and I think it really goes to show that caring for your body will have lasting impacts for the rest of your career. Alright, so now on to FPO. This was basically just a neck and neck race between Kristen and Kat, with Holland Handley being a strong performer but just not quite cutting it to be in the conversation for the win. But with that said, she still is performing phenomenal based upon her expectations for the start of the year. She is performing week after week, just needs to perfect her putting because that was a noticeable weak point for her when we know that she can be elite levels on the putting green. So coming into the final round, it was looking like Catrina was probably going to take the win. She had a good stroke lead with a double on hole 7 and Kristen not missing any birdies and getting 1 eagle on hole 6. I was like, oh yeah, Kristen is definitely going to show up. Catrina's probably going to fall apart. But then we get to the back 9 and it is a totally different story. Kristen just cannot seem to pull anything together. This is a circle 1 putt for 14 and it was basically game over after 14 because there was basically no chance that Kristen was going to gain so many strokes with a huge lead coming from Catrina. And while there was a good amount of spit outs, unlucky rollaways for Kristen, she still seemed to falter just a little bit more than we expect her to. But with that said, a second place finish is still pretty darn good.
I felt the calmest I've felt on the course probably since Worlds in 2021.
And I have to say that with Catrina taking the win, I think this is probably what I foresee to be the future of the season for FPO. Probably a neck and neck race between Catrina and Kristen if Catrina is in the mix. If she has those events where she starts a little slow, then maybe not, but I think the only real competitor for Kristen will be Catrina. And I could definitely see a neck and neck race at Worlds. So with that said, what do you guys think? Do you have any strong opinions on this? I'd love to hear about it.
Thanks for watching. Wild Run's Wifey sign out. Be sure to subscribe.
Peace.